So let's talk about how he ended up writing a Batman story, because that is also very interesting. This has been retold many times, but my favorite telling of this story comes from a man named Mark Evanier. He wrote about it on his blog. His blog's called News from Me. I'll drop a link for it in the show notes. But basically, the way that Mark tells the story, Mark had a great many famous friends, other authors, celebrities. For example, in the documentary that I watched, prominently features both Neil Gaiman and Robin Williams. Apparently, Robin Williams was really great friends with Harlan. He's on camera talking about him and stuff like that. One such friendship was with a man named Julius Schwartz, to be precise. I won't go too deep on Julie, since we're definitely going to talk about him again in the future. But he probably knew Harlan because Julie started a science fiction fan magazine at the beginning of his career in the 30s and ran it for a long time. In the late 40s, so he's continuing to write this sci-fi fan magazine. He probably knows about, books or short stories. Harlan primarily wrote short stories that Harlan is writing. But in the 1940s, he joins as an editor at All American Comics, which is a line of comics at DC that's doing The Flash and Green Lantern, and eventually continues working for DC, takes over editing the Batman line of books. So he edits Batman from 1964 to 1979. Really important figure to the Batman because of his presence in the sci-fi community, friends with Harlan. They were very close. For many years, Julie would call Harlan every single Wednesday morning, and they'd chat on the phone for a couple hours. And, people describe it as like a mentorship relationship where the mentor would change, like who was the father figure and who was the son figure. They were always talking about their careers and giving each other advice and things like that. And sometime around 1971, Julie floated the idea of writing a Batman script, of Harlan writing a Batman script for Julie. And Harlan agreed, though he would only do it if he didn't have to commit to a deadline. And an aside here, for all the praise that Harlan gets about being an excellent writer, he also gets an equal share of critique about not tending to his career. For example, there are many, many people who bemoan the fact, are upset about the fact that Harlan never really wrote a great novel. They feel, like he had this potential. He did write 3 novels, but none of them were critically acclaimed or sold very well. Mm-hmm. And they think it's because he didn't, have that sort of drive.
Interesting.
Yeah. Instead, he wrote lots and lots and lots of short stories. Another way that he's delinquent in that responsibility to his career, he's notorious for not meeting deadlines. One of his most famous short stories is titled "Repent, Harlequin," said the TikTok man. Ooh. It's a really, really good book.
The title says a lot, though.
Yes. I recommend it. You can find it online if you just search the title. It takes about 20, 30 minutes to read. And it takes place in a dystopian future where everyone in society is strictly regimented on an exact schedule. And every deviation from that schedule is deducted from the end of your life.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So they have this technology where they know how long you're going to live, and a ledger that keeps track of when you were late, when you caused other people to be late, when you messed up the schedule, those sort of gears of society. And, if you were at the end of your life and you had made everyone 2 hours late, they'd kill you 2 hours earlier. Right. I recommend the story. But it's basically a veiled diatribe about deadlines and people who enforce them.
Well, the title is his name. Repent, my name.
No.
The TikTok man.
Repent, Harlequin.
Well, what's his name?
Harlan. Yeah, I guess so. Definitely worth a read. But 1981 rolls around. So remember, Julius asked him to write the story in 1971. 1981 rolls around. 10 years after. Yeah.
He rolled out 14-page comic book.
Whoa.
Oh, wait, okay. Maybe I'm too early.
You're skipping ahead. 10 years later, Julie's up for an award. It's called an Inkpot Award. The Inkpot Awards...
Oh, that's right, because the issue came out in 1986, so it's 15 years. Okay.
Just you wait. We're not there. The Inkpot Awards are still around today. They're basically just an industry award given out at San Diego Comic-Con. Writers, artists, editors, anyone participating in comics, sci-fi, that sort of thing. The Inkpots are not as prestigious today as they were back in the 80s, because now there's a set of awards called the Eisner Awards, named after Will Eisner, who did The Spirit. They're considered to be like the Oscars of comic books, but at the time, Inkpots were the deal.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Harlan knows that Julius is going to get the Inkpot Award. So he, in secret, plans to come to San Diego Comic-Con to surprise Julie. And the ceremony is going on. And it's actually Ray Bradbury, who is a famous science fiction author, did Fahrenheit 451. You probably read that in school.
Yeah.
Something Wicked This Way Comes, also Ray Bradbury, right? Very famous author. He's the one giving the award, right? So like he's giving the speech about like how awesome Julie is. He announces that Julie's the winner, and Julie goes up to give a speech. Julie's giving his acceptance speech, and being an editor, he's kind of thanking everyone, all the writers who work for him. He says that they helped him, to receive this award by getting their work in on time. And then he says, well, except for one person, but I won't say their name. And somebody yells from the audience, mention his name. And depending on who's retelling the story, that audience member is Harlan. But maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Different people say it's different people. Harlan apparently at one point said it was Mark, the person who's writing this blog post. But Mark says it wasn't him. So, whoever. And so Julie up on stage with the microphone says, well, it was Harlan Ellison. He promised me a script 10 years ago and I'll probably never see it. And if I do, I'll probably reject it. And the whole audience is laughing, they're loving it. He's working the crowd.
That is Harlan, so inflammatory though to Harlan, who holds grudges.
But he's got a rap, right? Everyone knows that he's this firebrand. They know that he doesn't,
Sure. But I also thinking like, what's Harlan gonna do? Because like he seems to be a person who doesn't. He seems to have a lot of inner demons and probably is concerned about reputation, even though he knows and everyone knows he kind of has a bad reputation. So I'm imagining this is not something he loved.
Well, thankfully, he takes it in good candor.
That's good.
Harlan jumps up, and remember, Julie doesn't know that he's here, right? And he starts walking up to the stage, and he's got a manila envelope in his hand. He's holding it above his head. He's waving it back and forth as he's running up on the stage, and the crowd's laughing and applauding because they know who he is, right?
Yeah.
And Julie's just called him out. They're going nuts. It's quite the scene. Harlan gets up on the stage. He's working the crowd. He's telling, saying how great, Julie is. Takes the microphone, giving a speech. And then he tells the story about how 10 years ago, he promised Julie a Batman script. And he says that the manila envelope contains the Batman script. And he gives it to Julie.
Okay, that's why he took it so well, I'm sure. It's because he had it. Okay.
And then, the night goes on. He gets the award. Everything's great. Later that night, Julie opens the envelope, takes it out, and turns out it contains the first page of a script and 14 blank pages. And supposedly, later that night, Harlan and Julie had a conversation. He says, I promise I'll get you the rest of the script next week.
Oh my gosh, this guy.
I think that's hilarious that he shows up. Like he has this idea of this like grand gesture of like he's going to deliver the script while he's getting the ink pot, He works the crowd. He hands him the envelope. Script's not in it.
It's empty, basically. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Harlan did eventually finish the script. He delivered the final script in 1986. This was many years after Julie has retired. And this is why Len Wein is ultimately the Batman editor at the time who publishes the work.
Oh my gosh. So he promised it the next week and it was 5 more years.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so that's why at the end it says the story that it was promised.
Yes. In fact, if you go back to the second page, I don't know if you still have it pulled up.
I do.
On the second page of the comic, it says The Night of Thanks But No Thanks. That's the title card. And then below it says With Love after 15 years for Julie Schwartz.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. With love after 15 years.
Yeah.
Crazy.